From Chicago, Illinois, one of the great television performers, Johnny King. From Old Forge, Pennsylvania, the bowling professor, Frank Klaus.
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Championship Bowling from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, here at the Major League Bowling Lanes, where each week you see two of the nation's outstanding bowling stars in match game competition, 3 games, total pins, $1,000 to the winner. 24 stars. They'll all appear twice, meeting a different opponent each time. The total for the 6 games will qualify the 2 men who will go 6 more games for a $15,000 added purse. A total of $60,000 in prizes, a 300 game worth $10,000 additional. All competition sanctioned by the American Bowling Congress. We'll be ready for the first game between Frank Klaus of Old Forge, Pennsylvania, Johnny King from Chicago, Illinois, after a word of wisdom.
Ready to go. First game, first frame. Frankie Klaus won the toss. Elected to start on the right side. That puts Johnny King on the left side in the third game. The man with the long cigar throws too high, 4-6. Wide open. So Johnny, wanting to get away in a hurry, not taking any chances, throws it right up on the nose, leaves the 4-6. Wide open, considered impossible. It has been made, of course, but I think John will just play the 4-pin, play it safe, and take his 9 in the first frame. So Frankie Klaus, the professor, the bowling schoolmaster from Old Forge, Pennsylvania, finds himself with a chance to take an early lead. Just fill the first frame. Frank Klaus, 4.5 steps. A spot bowler. Throws it up thin, doesn't shake them, leaves the 2 and the 5. The 2, 5, and the 8, as the AMF indicator so indicates. And the Sparemaker tells us that that ball must go between the 2, 5, and it must be up in there well enough to get back and get the 8-pin, a blind pin, many times called, or they call it a mother-in-law. Frank's not going to get there. So Klaus is open, King is open, so the boys are gentlemen as Klaus will move to the left. Each bowler bowls 2 complete frames, while his opponent sits by. No defense here, all offense. Frank Klaus, born in Old Forge, Pennsylvania in 1913. Attended the University of Scranton. A history teacher in Old Forge. Formerly, now the 7-pin stays up there for Mr. Klaus. Frank is now, of course, the most popular member of the AMF staff, known for his great instruction forums that he's conducted all over the world, and his feature called the Bowling Primer. At the 7-pin, Klaus has the spare. So Johnny King now, formerly of Cleveland, moved to Chicago in 1957, a 5-stepper. Started bowling back in 1940 when he was only 18 years old. This fellow's a very colorful guy if he ever gets loose. From the inside, leaves the 4-pin. An interesting study in styles. King playing the right side, lane 28 on the extreme inside, almost left of center. Klaus is on the outside. This lane, as we refer to it, the right side here at Winston-Salem, North Carolina, is the lane that is keeping the boys busy. By that, we mean they're finding that they must thread the needle, as they'll tell you. In practice, that needle is easy to thread. When they get under the pressure of television, of course, that needle becomes a little smaller, and it becomes harder to thread naturally. So we are finding that the boys are fighting the right side. They find the left side, lane 27, reasonably easy. However, when you fight one, many times you lose them both. Here's King, up, moved in. He kicks the 5 out, leaves nothing but the 7. So we're waiting for our first strike. Klaus has had one in, left the 7 pin. King has had 2 in there now, leaving the 4 and the 7. These AMF lanes have been checked out by the American Bowling Congress. Match game conditions prevailing for every match. There's the cover. So Johnny has himself a spare as Klaus moves in on the right. Frank has a column that runs in many newspapers around the country. Also has a book called How to Win in Bowling. Maybe you've seen it. Try reading it. Frank misses the head pin, the 1-2-4. In '61, Frank made a tour of Hawaii with Bill Bonetta, another one of our 24 stars that you will see here on Championship Bowling. The 1, the 2, the 4. The AMF Sparemaker says, go on the Brooklyn side. Mr. Klaus did not. He has missed another spare, leaving the 4 pin. Klaus has missed 2 spares on the right side, 2 tough ones, the 2-5-8 and the 1-2-4. Klaus to the left, down in that crouch. Frank throwing a conventional grip. Here it comes. 7 pin stops him. Frank is also a proprietor in New Jersey. Proprietor of the Boonton Bowl. Averaged 223 in the Atlantic Seaboard Classic back in 1956. At the 7 pin. Frank has the spare. So Klaus has had 2 7 pins on the left side, 2 tough spares on the right, both of which he has missed as Johnny King moves in the 4th frame. Johnny out in front by some 13 pins. Too high, John. Broke it up. 6 pin. Here's a fella that has picked up a lot of titles in his career, in addition to having quite a flair for television. John seems to do his best work on television. He has rolled a 300 game in front of the cameras back in 1957. Won $10,000 for it. On Championship Bowling, he has appeared twice, a total of 6 games. His average is 223. His high has been 676. His high single 247. So at the end of 4, King out in front by 12 pins. We're still looking for our first strike. There it is. Well, we've got that first strike. That's the first assignment, of course. We bring this up many times. When you're facing television cameras, the first thing to do, the hardest thing to do first is to get the first strike. Then the next assignment is to get the double, or get the first double. Klaus on the right. We're almost halfway in the first game. Frankie, give that one a turn. There you are. So at the end of 5, the boys now begin to get loosened up, both striking in the 5th frame. King still out in front by 12 pins at the end of the 5th frame of game number 1. We're in the 6th. The bowling professor in the crouch tries for the first double, throws it up. Here it comes. He's in there, kicks the ball out. So Frankie now beginning to loosen up, and Mr. King finds himself in the position where he must get this strike to stay out in front. So Klaus carried out the assignment. When he got his first strike, he made it a double. Let's see if Mr. King can do the same thing. 6th frame, first game, Championship Bowling from the Major League Lanes in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Johnny is high again, the 310. 1957, King was the nation's leading TV money winner. Had quite a run on Detroit television, averaged .227 for 75 games. He was never under .600 for 25 consecutive matches. Just like that. Nice shot. The .310, many times called the baby split, you got to fit the ball in there. Of course, there is a chance to make it on the outside, but the AMS Fairmaker says put the ball between the two pins, and that's exactly what Mr. King did. We go into the seventh frame. This match practically even. King has a slight advantage, 2 pins and counts. However, Klaus is on the strike. King is on the spare. We're in the seventh. Got to hurry up there. There it is. So Johnny has been winding him up on the left side, and Frank has had his troubles here on the right side. Big lift and turn, and he could have it. There it is. Look at that boy work. Right down on both knees. The bowling professor from Old Forge, Pennsylvania. Frank has 3 lovely daughters. Started as a freshman, went in college in 1935. Frank says they used to have the low man set pins. Frank never did like to work too much, even as a youngster. That is physical output, so he said to himself, I better get more pins. I don't want to set them, and that's how he developed, of course, into quite a bowler. This fella has quite a record in the 300 department. He's rolled 10 sanctioned perfect scores. So Klaus stops with the 2-4-5 after 3. Has a 5-pin advantage with this cover, but King is on a strike in the 7th. Frankie, look out. He converted on the outside going away. So a spare for Klaus after a triple as King moves up in the 8th, and Johnny needs a strike to take the lead back. Johnny's still looking for a good pocket hit over here. There it is. King playing much inside. Klaus playing sort of an inside line, too. However, he does not have the speed that King is throwing. Frankie goes around a little bit where John tries to hold them tight. King on the strike. In fact, he's on 2. He has a 5-pin lead and a chance to extend that. He's on the strike. Klaus is on the spare. Hurry up. He's there, number 3. So King now beginning to loosen him up a bit as he almost lost his wristwatch on that one. We're in the 9th. King with a chance for 227. Klaus still kicks around a potential 212. Frankie in the crouch. 5 short steps. Here's his line. Too high. 4-7. The 4-7. One of the world's most traveled bowlers, Frank Klaus, former school teacher from Old Forge, Pennsylvania, now known as the bowling professor and bowling's schoolmaster. There it is. So Frankie covers it up. We go into the 10th frame. As you notice, the competition on championship bowling, each man bowls 2 complete frames. Klaus will finish it out. King will know exactly what he needs. In the 10th, Klaus throws up, shakes it up, carries. Nice ball. Well, over these weeks to come, you'll see some of the great ones. Over $60,000 in prizes on championship bowling. From Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Try to join us. You hear? Klaus now trying for the double. He needs 2 for 200. He'll never get there. He has the 2-4-5. Now the 2-5, the cover for 190. You'll see boys like Dick Weber, one of the greatest bowlers of all time. Eddie Lubansky, Pat Patterson, the winner of championship bowling in Northbrook, Illinois, the youngster from Detroit, Bobby Kowalik, Billy Whaley, Lindy Faragelli, Eddie Bourdain. Norman Salvino, Ray Shannon, Lou Campy, Bill Bonetta, Fred Lenning. Star you're going to hear a lot from out of Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania. You'll see them all week in and week out on Championship Bowling. Here's Johnny King in the 10th, a chance for 227. Johnny winds one up. It's got to hurry. 7 pins stops him again. Well, we've had 4 7 pins, all good shakers that have not carried. As those AMF Chemwell tournament registered pins sort of refuse to collaborate on the left corner. We'll have to work on that one. Come on, John. That's a spare. So King will be the winner of the first game, first of 3, $1,000 to the winner. Pinfall, very important. Both these boys will make a second appearance, meeting a different opponent. Total pins for both appearances. For our entire field of 24 of the nation's great stars, the top 2 men return on the final 2 weeks for a $15,000 added purse. The winner each week gets $1,000. The runner-up, $500. Well, he got 9 of them for 206. That's the end of the first game. We'll check these scores now and make them official. Be back for game number 2. Now, our friendly hosts. Frankie Klaus, Old Forge, Pennsylvania, the bowling professor, starts off the second game. He trails by 15 pins. On the Brooklyn side to 310. 310, the baby split. The idea, put the ball between the 2 pins. And that's what the AMF Sparemaker says. It indicates how to make the spare. A self-instructing unit. Just look at the magic triangle. Right on the pin indicator. Klaus will do that very thing. There you are. So you see, the Sparemaker can be quite a help. Mr. Klaus, who knows certainly all about the Sparemaker, will tell you there are 1,023 different setups that you can possibly convert. Here's King. We're in the first frame, second game. Johnny doesn't get there, but he gets the result that he wants. Johnny gave it a chance, loosened him up a bit, and he has a strike in the first frame. King is out in front. He started with an open frame in the first frame, a 4-6. This game gets away with a shaker on the right. He moves left. Johnny King, who has rolled 63 perfect scores. King winds it up. Got to dig, John. Oh, look here. 7 pins. Well, that's 5 of them we've had. 5 7s. The boy's not piling them up correctly on the left side, not getting that extra little bump. So it cost Johnny King a double. Klaus has had 2 7-pins over there on the left side. He covers it up. So Klaus now has a chance to get back in here in a hurry. He trails by 15 pins. King did not make his strike good. Frankie up short. Drops his right foot back slightly. Very short steps. Boy, he couldn't let that one go out the window. Frankie would tell you that his timing was a bit off that time. Looked like he was sliding up there sideways. A clothesline, we call this one. I believe in New York they call it the fence posts. Well, there's another open for Frank on the right side. He has missed 3 spares. The 2-5-8, the 1-2-4 in the first game, and now the 1-2-4-7 in the second game. So Johnny King adding to his margin as we go to frame number 3. I believe we mentioned earlier that Klaus had 10 sanctioned perfect scores. He has 11, which ranks him 3rd in ABC history. That'll never get there either. The bucket, the 2-4-5-8. George Billick, also from Frank's neighborhood down in Pennsylvania, Old Forge and Scranton, has 12 sanctioned perfect scores. Walter Ward has Joe Donato tells me that Billick has 16 sanctioned perfect scores. Thank you, Joe. Smaller Ward has 12, and Frankie Klaus has 11. So Johnny King moving in on the right side as Klaus covers up the bucket. Frankie having his troubles. He's only had 4 strikes. King started with a strike, lost a good 7-pin. Very deep here, inside, too high. He has the 3-10. Klaus converted this one in the first frame. Let's see what Mr. King can do with it. King was a member of the Fresno Bombers in the National Bowling League in 1962. 3-10, ball between the 2 pins. Doesn't quite come up, and he's open. So it's a life for Klaus as the boys kick this $1,000 bill back and forth. Well, Johnny misses the head pin. Take a look at that 4-pin. It's at least 2 inches off spot. Watch the AMF pin spotter handle this situation. The 4-pin exactly off spot, which is an ABC requirement and something that these AMF pin spotters do so well. The 1, the 2, and the 4, and look out, he covered. So Johnny coming back shaking his head as his lovely wife sits directly behind him. And she probably could straighten John out. Nettie King. Here's Klaus. Hey, give that one a turn, but will it get there? Not enough. Another bucket. 2, 4, 5, 8. So Frank unable to get that ball up there. These conditions here at the Major League Lanes in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, as we have mentioned, are not the easiest. These are match game conditions. Brand new pins right out of the box. The lanes reconditioned before each match. There's another nice cover for Frank. Boy, he shot at just about everything in the books. King out in front by 7 pins here in the second game. Gives it a big turn. There you are. That's what you got to do, Frank, old boy. I'm sure that's what Klaus teaches. Get the ball out in front of you and lift. And there was a good example of what happens when you do that very thing, something that Frank has not been doing. King in the 5th. We're almost halfway. Frank has lost 10 pins and counts. King winds it up. He's too high. Almost the 3-10. Nothing but the 3-pin. Johnny, who is playing this right side very deep, very easy to pull the ball when you try to hold a tight line, as John is doing. He does not want to throw it out. He feels it won't come back. Like we mentioned, it's like threading a needle here on the right side, lane 28. So at the end of 5, we're halfway. In the middle of game number 2, it's King 66 spare. Klaus works on a strike. Johnny King out in front. We're in the 6th, second game. King steps in, throws. He's there. Well, he finally did something over there. A solid hit by John King, who started with a solid strike and lost to 7-pin. Then the baby split, which he missed. Now must string them out as his opponent, Frankie Klaus, moves in on the right, trying for his first double of this game. Working on his first strike. This is his tough side. There's a pretty good lift. And it gets there. And Frankie is quite amazed at what happened. Very simple, Frank. Reach. So Klaus has taken the lead here in the second game. So this is a very tight match. Scores might not be big, but the competition terrific. Klaus, will he go for 3? He's on his knees, and he leaves the 10th pin. Well, sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. The 10 pin. So Klaus stops at 2. Frankie picked up his first game. Finally got loose. turned in a triple in the 5th, 6th, and 7th. It looked like he might be doing the same thing this game with strikes in the 5th and 6th, but a 10-pin stops him in the 7th. Cross lane. At the 10-pin, he has it. So at the end of 7 for Klaus, it's 109 spare as Johnny King moves in the 7th, needs a strike to take the lead back. Mr. King gets the double, takes the lead back. We go into the 8th frame. King finally shakes it up. That's his first double of the game. He had a triple in the first game, 7th through the 9th, to get into the 200 bracket. Klaus with a triple in the first game for 190. Frankie has the double this game. King out in front now by 5 pins. He carried a lead of 15. The margin, 20. We're in the 8th. King on the strike. Chance to add to his margin. $1,000 to the winner. Johnny on his favorite side. He doesn't get there. The 2, 4, 5, 8 on top of that one. Many of the boys call that fanning the ball, letting your hand get on top of the ball, overturning from the top. The ball has a tendency to skid, will not finish. And that's about what happened to Big John there. And he made the 8-pin coming this way. Well, some great action, and John, that got a smile out of Johnny. 132 with a spare in the 8th. Frankie Klaus moves in on the right side. Frankie has been fighting over here. He's left everything in the book. The clothesline, the bucket, the 2-5-8, the 1-2-4. And he's going to miss that head pin. And he has the 1-2-8. Well, that's a new one. Hasn't had that one before. So the AMF indicator lights up, and the ingenious spare maker tells us that you must hit the head pin a little to the left, and the ball will go on through and hit the 2 and the 8. And the professional will show you. See? That's how easy it is. So at the end of 8, it's King, 132 spare. Klaus, 126 spare. The margin, 6 pins. King carries 15 with him. The margin is 21 overall. Frankie Klaus still in the picture. That ought to get there. Oh! Well, there's the best ball that we have seen Klaus throw here this week on Championship Bowling from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, at the Major League Lanes. As Johnny King tries to match it in the 9th. This is the big frame, the 9th frame, the frame that counts so much. Johnny shakes another one up. Well, that's 2 of them over here. And now John will move left. This is his favorite side. This is the side that Klaus wants to finish on twice. Frankie won the toss. The boys that have been winning the tosses have been picking the right side to finish on the left side twice. The right side is becoming notoriously difficult. King now in the 10th with a chance for 212. Hurry up. Oh, he just missed the 5 pin. Got a pin off the kickback, but it was in front of the 5. So Frank Klaus now has an opportunity to get himself right in the thick of this one if he can strike out for 206. In fact, he can take the lead. The best King can get is 192. Now, Klaus can be within 1 pin of King. There's the cover. King gets 9 here, and Klaus will go all the way. We could have a tie match. It's a close one. Johnny throws up, doesn't get there, leaves 7. Frankie Klaus can take the lead with 2 strikes and a good count. So King, with 1 open frame, the 310, 1 double, settles for 189 on top of 205 as Klaus, sensing the opportunity to go out in front, throws too high, and he's wide open, 4-7-10. Frankie gave that one quite a lift. The boys will say he really goosed that one, or cranked it. He over-cranked, too high, 4-7-10. Let's see what he can do with it. Here's a fella that won over $75,000 on television in 1960. 40,000 of it on 1 appearance. Come on. Almost a great shot. So Klaus is open in the 10th and settles for 172. That puts Johnny King out in front with 1 game to go. On Championship Bowling from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, this is Fred Wolf. Now, your hosts for Championship Bowling have a word. Third and final game. Johnny King moves in on the left side. He's out in front by 32 pins. $1,000 goes to the winner. Both these boys making their first appearance, and Mr. King just threw one out the window. Out the boulevard, the scenic route, as the boys will say, and he didn't get back, leaves the 1-2. Johnny, the man with the big cigar King, who rolled a 300 game on television in 1957, was worth $10,000 to him. I think he'll settle for about 230 here. The 1 and the 2, and he covers. Frank Klaus now with his back to the wall. 32 pins over 10 frames. And he's got to throw strikes to pick up 32 pins on Johnny King. That'll dig. It's there. He carries. So Frankie wheels one in there in great shape at those AMF tournament grade Chemweld pins. In the 1962 BP AA All-Star Tournament down in Miami Beach, against these very AMF tournament grade Chemweld pins, there were 5 perfect scores turned in, which was an all-time record. In the second, Klaus throws. He's there. Look at here. Well, there's 2 of the best balls that Klaus has thrown, and he put them together for the double. And that 32 pins now begins to get a little slim for Johnny King. Used to be called the King of Television. That's what we called him around Detroit. Johnny Wines one. He'll never get there. And he has the 2-4-5. This one will keep you busy. Johnny feels that his toughest spare is the 2-5-8. Now he has the 2-5. However, with the 4-pin there, it's not quite as difficult. The sparemaker says to put the ball between the 2 and the 5, exactly where Mr. King has put it. Championship Bowling coming to you from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Here at the Major League Bowling lanes are statistician Jimmy Gleason, promotion manager for Major League Bowling. King moves left. 2 spares against his opponent's 2 strikes. Johnny doesn't get there again. He has the 2-4-5 again. So he's had the 1-2 and the 2-4-5 twice. Not getting up to the head pin. In fact, John has been short since the 3-10 in the 3rd frame of the 2nd game. There's another one. Made that one on the outside. So King keeps filling them up, and Klaus needing 1 strike each frame to pick up 10 of those 32 pins. Now he has 10 of them. This strike will give him 20. He's picked up a few pins and counts. Could be under 10 pins. He could be too high. Too high. Breaks it up. Nothing but the 10 pin. Frankie breathes a sigh of relief, and the tough side stops him again. 1954, the Pennsylvania State All Events champion, Frankie Klaus from Old Forge, Pennsylvania. A bowling proprietor, a bowling professor, a bowling schoolmaster. Look out! In the channel. So Klaus with another miss. And that was a costly one because it gives Johnny King just about 30 pins to work on with 7 frames to go, $1,000 to the winner. There's another strike, so let's not count the old professor out of this one. Converted that 10 pin, he'd be very much in the running. King moves in the 4th, looking for his first strike. Now Johnny has been short all 3 frames. I don't think he'll be short again. He'll want to get this one up there. Got to make an adjustment. He does. He's there. That's the spot. That's what we were looking at in practice earlier today when King was working out, throwing strike after strike, but when they turn on the lights, it's a different story. Now, we have mentioned that lane 28, which is the right side, referred to, the phrase the boys use, it's a little tough in that you've got to thread the needle. That means there's just one spot there that the boys feel they can get that strike. In practice, you can thread the needle. There it is. When you get under the tension of television lights and the fact that the cameras are rolling, that needle becomes so small that it's that much harder to thread. That's about the story. We're in the 5th, almost halfway. Klaus on a strike. Too high, breaks it up. Don't see that one too often. 6, 9, 10. So Frankie on a strike, unable to do anything here on the right side. He has 2 strikes on the left. 5 frames to go. Johnny King out in front by some 35 pins. There's the cover. Klaus with his spare in the 5th. So King works on 2. Klaus is 77 spare at the end of the 5th frame of the 3rd and final game. Klaus now in the 6th. He's got to make a move and make it in a hurry. Here he comes. There, he shakes that 5 pin. Very good ball on the left side. Frankie, of course, as we keep mentioning, having all his trouble on the right. This makes for interesting competition. These boys have got to apply every trick that they know to master a condition that is quite a challenge. Not like shooting fish in the barrel. You got to know what you're doing. Johnny dropped that one. Too high, the 4-7. So King, who was on 2, working extremely hard here on the right side. It's a lane that does not give you any opportunity to relax. You can't make a mistake. Sometimes you might float 1 board or 2 to the outside of your spot. The lane may help you to bring the ball back, but not here. If you miss your spot, you've missed the pocket. 4-7 cover. So King maintaining that 30 pins. In fact, he's got 37 pins, to be exact, with 4 frames to go to pick up $1,000. Johnny has bowled 6 games. He's made 2 appearances on championship bowling on another series, averaging 223 for 6. His high game was 247. His high 3, 676. Too high. Oh, he got away with a Brooklyn. A Brooklyn by King. Or I guess down in the east, maybe in Schenectady. I'll have to ask Joe Donato. What do they call that down there, Joe? A Jersey? Still a Brooklyn? Where do they call it a Jersey? In Brooklyn, yeah. That's about what I figured. We're in the 7th. This is Klaus's last chance. He's on a strike. Come on, Frank. Get it up there. That's the boy. Well, that'll keep Johnny King busy. Klaus finally masters the right side the 2nd time this game. So that's the 2nd double for Frank. His 5th strike in 7 frames. King has only 3 strikes in 7 frames. However, no opens. Johnny converting 3 pretty tough spares to start with. A couple of 2-4-5s. Can't call the 1-2 very tough. We're in the 8th. Klaus gets this one. He can give King something to think about. And he may be there. He is there. And he's down on both knees there. As Johnny King now must start looking at that scoreboard. Klaus has taken the lead in the third game as he begins to chop away at those 32 pins. Klaus leads by 5, even if King gets the double. If King does not get the double, look out. Too high, too high. The 6th pin is up there, and Frankie Klaus now suddenly in contention. Now, Frank will have to move in on the right side, his tough side. If he can get away with the strike in the 9th and move left on his favorite side, he might pull this one out. He will finish first, so King will know exactly what he needs. At the 6th pin, John covers. You know, America's Man in Space program is just one of the many ways that we show the world our strength. By keeping America strong, we're helping to guarantee peace, and you can help. Yes, you can help by buying United States savings bonds. King in the 9th. Chance for 212. Johnny winds one up, and here it comes. There it is. Nice action. So Frankie Klaus has only one way to go. Let's strike him out. We'll give him 247. He trailed by 32. King will need 216 to win. That means King would need a double in the 10th if Klaus goes all the way. Another close finish on championship bowling. 2 of the nation's great stars in action here. He's never get there. Never get there. The 2, the 5, and the 8. And Frank told us just before airtime when we asked him, Frank, what do you feel is your toughest spare shot? And this is what he said, the 258. Of course, the spare maker shows him how to make it. There you are. That's exactly what the ingenious spare maker arrow indicated. The ball covering the 2-5 full. Klaus still is in contention for 224. That would just about force King to mark. That's right. King will need a mark if Klaus doubles and gets a good count on his last ball. That was a big strike for Frank. Could be the first one. 10 pin stops him, and it looks like Mr. King is home. So Frankie Klaus, who made quite a run at the finish here, that big split in the 10th frame of the second game, I believe, was the difference in this match. Klaus was on a strike, and he had a chance for 206. He was wide open with a 4-7-10 on the right side, which has given him all the trouble. And he ended up with 172. King covered a spare and actually won that game by 17 pins. So for Klaus, the count will give him 213. King has a chance for 222. Johnny, of course, not going to be satisfied with winning the $1,000 because total pins is important. He will make another appearance, meeting another bowler, another one of our 24 great stars on championship bowling from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. There it is, solid 10. 212 for Frank Klaus. This is Fred Wolf. We have quite a crowd on hand again this week. Everybody very enthusiastic watching these great stars in action. Under match game conditions, quite a challenge. Here it comes. He's there, shakes it up. So Johnny has a double. King has turned in 3 real shakers here on the right side, getting some great action on that 7-pin. We have watched the same hit on the left side, and the 7-pin seems a bit stubborn. So he has himself a 600 total. And there's another one, and he kicks it apart. Oh, Johnny got the old machine working there, and those AMF tournament grade Chemweld pins were really jumping. You know, each of these pins is registered to ensure watched weights in each set. These are brand new right out of the box. You got to hit them to knock them down. They're not going to fall when the wind blows. Look out. Too high, gets 8 of them.
So for King, a 2:20 finish. For Klaus, 2:12.
Now we'll be back for the totals and give you an idea of just how this thing worked out strike-wise after a word from our friendly hosts.
Here are the results. Klaus 190, 172, and 212 for a total of 574. Johnny King 205, 189, a 220 finish, a total 614. The winner, King, 614, Klaus 574. Did you enjoy the bet? Johnny? In the battle of spares, you made the most spares, $1,000. Frankie, missed an occasional spare, $500. Good luck. We'll see you boys on your next appearance.
Next time around.
Thanks a lot. Johnny and Frank. Well, that's another week from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Championship Bowling. Sure hope you can join us next week. Until then, Fred Wolf just saying, keep 'em bowling out there.
Shirts and slacks used on Championship Bowling by King Louie. Championship Bowling is sanctioned by the American Bowling Congress, and we wish to thank AMF for their cooperation in helping us to produce Championship Bowling.